Welcome back to another video. This really popped when I saw it. That to me is a monster increase. Again, this book got hot. This book is ready to go higher. So let's jump right into it. We are back today with another statue review from Diamond Select Toys. Without further ado, let's get into the review. YouTube, what is going on? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles, and I have a special guest with me today. Say hello to Rohan from Back in the Game Comics. How you doing, bud?
Hey, what's up, guys? Good. How you doing, man?
So, as you guys know, we're here for an extremely important video, at least important to me. This has been like, I know my buddy Errol's was 20 years in the making, but this for me has probably been a lifetime in the making, even though I've had some starts, some stops, some starts again. So I never dreamed that 5 years ago when I got back into collecting comics that I would acquire this book. But we're going to get in today. I'm going to show you the book. We're going to get into what I traded for the book and get into the process. And of course, take your questions along the way. Anything you guys want is fair game as usual. All I ask is you be respectful. So how you doing? You know, thanks for joining me. It was a little bit short notice. I'm like, should I have someone on the channel?
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, I see it says right there 1/3 of your collection. So I mean, it's got to be something good. I'm definitely interested and excited to see what you got.
Yeah. So the main thing when anyone out there is talking about buying a book that they have thought about for their entire life or anything that they dream about is you have to buy what you like. And that's our first thing we always talk about as collectors, as me as a YouTuber, is when I got back in, it says, I only want to buy the books that I like, that I'm a fan of their characters. I had a buddy of mine who collects comics asked me a long time ago, he's like, don't you feel that when you have an emotional attachment to the book that it's harder to sell? And he made a valid point. What do you think about that?
Um, so when I first started, again, I got back into this just less than a year ago, and I was buying books. I was like, oh, I'm not going to ever get rid of any of these. These are always, I'm just going to keep building this. And then you kind of like start to hit your limits of what you can spend, you know, in a given amount of time. And then you start to reconsider things. You're like, wait a minute, do I want to just be stuck with this? And then you think if it gets me, and then my mind evolved, right? And it was once I started realizing if I can use these to up jump my collection, it'll be worth it. And then I did it for the first one, and then it kind of like a bug got me. And so now I'm all about moving on up if possible via trade. But I also, with that in mind, I think an important rule to learn is, because like even now I'll buy a book if I think I can get good margin on it, which is what JP says, if you've heard him say that. But you should still only buy that book if you're happy getting stuck with it. So for example, like I offered up some books for trade and someone, you know, hit me up and was like, hey, what about these books? I'd never heard of any of the three. He's like, but they all sell for $1,000. And I'm like, maybe. And I didn't know him. And so it's just like, I didn't know if I could sell them for that much or anywhere near that much. It's like, I don't want to get stuck with these books. So I said, I passed on the deal. And I think that's just kind of something you always got to think about when you're playing that game.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because he's right to a certain extent that if I have an emotional attachment to a book, and I do have emotional attachments to a few of my books. So trading, you know, I'm no joke. This is a third of my collection, possibly, I mean, maybe a little more, but regardless, it's hard to say goodbye to certain books. But at the same time, if you're not emotionally married to, you know, certain ones, it's okay to get rid of them. I have 2 books in my collection that it will be really hard for me to get rid of. Now I have 3, but I didn't give those away. So we're going to go through the list of what I traded and what I got. But I wanted to share that tidbit with you guys. Before we get into, you know, me going through the books of what I gave up, I wanted to say hello to a couple people in the chat. First, Raleigh Comic Book Collector. How you doing, bud? This guy has some amazing collection. If you guys don't follow him on YouTube or on IG, amazing stuff. Brandon Metro, thank you for joining us tonight, bud. How are you? Omega Jason, what's up? Dario, thanks for joining tonight, and so on and so forth. As more people join, please comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your questions. That's what we're here for, right? Engagement. All right, so we're going to start with the process of how I did this. So I've been looking for a book for a while, and certain ones have popped up, but I wasn't a fan of either the grade, how the book presented, or whatnot. I don't want to give too much away before I show the book, but I'll start with the fact that I've been looking for this book for a while. And when I saw this copy, I thought if we can get the right deal, that this one would be worth it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I gave up for this collection. Okay. for this book, I should say. We're going to start. I have everything that I hear. I'm going to bring up pictures of, so I can show you. Give me 1 second. There we go. All right. So I'm going to show you the books, not the exact books, but the books themselves that I gave up for this book. So the first book I gave up was a Tales of Suspense number 39 in a 2.0 grade. Okay. It had the Iron Man label as well on this book. So keep that in mind. The next book that I gave up was I don't know why this does this. I can't just go back and forth. It makes me go back in and out, but A Journey into the Mystery number 83 in a 1.0 CGC. Everything on here except for one book was a CGC book. So Journey into Mystery 83 in a 1.0. Okay.
Lawrence, was these the ones from your little single glass case?
Yes. Oh man, you wouldn't even memorize my room.
I watched your video. I remember there's AF-15 and the Hulk, and I remember the other two. I was pretty sure it's Iron Man and Thor. So that's why.
I gave up a Fantastic Four number 5 in a 3.0. Now, anybody who watches my channel religiously know I picked this book up raw from A1 Comics. They had it graded at a 2.5. I graded it, and it came back a 3.0 with the Doom label. This book is down right now, so it was really hard for me to get rid of this book. So that's 3. I gave up a total of 13 books, okay? A total of 13 books. I will say this. I did put cash on top of that, okay? It was 13 books plus cash. The next book I gave up was a Daredevil number 1 in a CGC 2.0, also with the Daredevil label. Okay. It makes me go in and out every time I want to present something else, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I got to complain to StreamYard about that one. I guess the next one I didn't load for some reason. Oh, here it is. There we go. What? Okay, so it's not loading everything. All right, so I can't do that way. Marvel Spotlight 5 in a 5.5 was another book that I gave up. Okay. The next one I gave up was an Avengers 1 in a 2.0. Again, this is one of the first books I ever picked up when I got back in collection. This was one of the first ones. I paid $900, I think, or less for this book, and the sale, most recent sale was $2,300 for this book. So a lot of the books I've had for a while that I've made pretty good on. And again, I'm sorry that I'm doing this way, but the only way it lets me do this. I gave up a Hulk 181 in a 4.5 signed by Roy Thomas. I do not currently own a Hulk 181 anymore. So wow. I do not own a Journey to Mystery 83. I still have an FF5. I have a Daredevil 1. No Marvel Spotlight 5 anymore. No Avengers 1 anymore, and no Incredible Hulk 181 anymore. So I gave up a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have given up otherwise if it wasn't for this book. A giant size X-Men 1 I gave up in a 7.0 white pages. I no longer own a copy of this book now either.
And you also don't own the TOS 39 anymore? Or do you
no, actually, I still have a raw copy of that one.
Oh, okay.
That one would have been hard to give away completely. I knew I wanted to keep a copy of that one, but luckily, I got in it at a decent time, so I still have a copy of that book. I gave an X-Men number 4 in a CGC 1.8. This, of course, is the first Wanda, second Magneto as well, guys. And it was actually had the Magneto label on it, which made it look awesome. All right. The next book I gave up was a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 9, first appearance of Electro, in a CBCS 2.0. My only CBCS book that I had left in my collection until now, because what I'm going to reveal is actually a CBCS book. All right, just 3 more, and I'm going to show you what it is. Amazing Spider-Man number 129. At one point, you guys know, if you watch my channel, I had like 6 copies of this book. I gave it an 8.0 off-white pages, and now I'm down to 1 raw copy, from 6 down to 1.
Dang.
Yeah, I know, right?
You can't really call yourself the ASM 129 guy anymore.
Yeah, that I cannot. This one was a hard one to let go, but Tomb of Dracula number 10 in a CGC 5.0 signed by Marv Wolfman. I do not own a Tomb of Dracula 10 anymore, so that was my only copy I gave up. All right, and the last book for the trade. The last book that I gave up. Is it on here? Yes, there it is. Is a copy of Fantastic Four number 48 in a CGC 4.0 Silver Surfer label. I do not own a Fantastic Four 48 anymore. That was it. I gave it up. No more. It was hard to let some of these books go because I know I always tell you guys about books that you should have in your collection. But if you guys come across a book that you want in your collection and you're willing to go out and get it, I think that it's always worth it. Don't worry about, getting back some of the smaller stuff because they can always be rebought if you want to do that. If you want to go back out and you want to collect it. I just think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the book before I tell you what it is.
Real quick, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to negotiate what you used for value of each of those books, or just go off last GPA, or what did you guys use?
I'll tell you the story before the show. So the collector was on Instagram who I was very familiar with. He's a dealer, and I messaged him. He posted it on his site, and he said, I said to him, "Hey, listen, are you open to, what are you asking for the book first and foremost?" And I'm like, "Are you open to offers?" And he said, "This is what I'm asking. Yes, I'm open to offers." The next question was, "Do you take trades?" And obviously he took trades because I traded a third of my collection, 13 books. So I made him an offer of these books, 13 books plus cash. And we were close right off the bat. He was like, "All right, we're only this much away." And then he threw an offer out. And I said, "No, I don't want to do that." I threw an offer out, went back and forth a couple of times. And finally I said, "This is the number I'm comfortable with. I'm not going over more than that. If we're going to move away from it, then so be it." He said, "Let me think about it." And by the end of the night, he said, "Yeah, let's do it." Okay. So I was happy because whenever you're buying something of this caliber of any book, anytime you're buying something that's worth value, you never know, one, if you could trust the person. That's the main thing. But because I knew him, I felt a lot more comfortable. I mailed him a bank check because I knew him for the cash part of it. And then I mailed him the books in 2 separate packages because there were 13 books. I couldn't fit him in one. I overnighted everything just to make sure everything got there quick. He got him, signature for everything, no problem. The next day, he overnighted me this book. So literally, it was done like in 4 days. And that's including the weekend because I mailed everything on the check on a Thursday. He got it the Friday. Monday, I mailed the books. Tuesday, he got the book. He got them. Tuesday, he mailed me the book. Wednesday, it arrived in my lap. So literally a 4-day process for everything. And I couldn't ask for a better transaction. So I don't want to give the seller's name because I don't know if he wants people to know what went on, but I wanted to share the story. So I'm not going to give his name, but all I can say is thank you to him because it was seamless. I never had an inch of doubt. It was 100% great transaction for me. And I'm assuming for him, we both hit it off and now we know each other, personally, which is great as well. So why don't I shut the hell up and just show you what this thing is. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see it.
So this is a book I've wanted in my collection for a long time. It's a golden age book. It's something that I've been after. A lot of people know I've been after this thing. So I finally felt comfortable picking up a copy. And it is, of course, a copy of Batman #1.
Nice.
So obviously it's a CBCS. You guys see that. I don't know about anybody else in this community, but I hate the CGC purple labels, restored labels. I think they do something for the way the book looks. It really does tear it down to me just from presentation standpoint. Because this is CBCS, it was a little bit easier for me, a little bit nicer on the eye, even though I'm not a huge fan of their labels. But this is an older label as well, so it's presents a lot better than I think than the newer labels. And I'm going to read you what it says. It is a restored book. And for anybody out there who knows, when I talk about silver, bronze, copper, I always tell you stay away from restored books. But when you talk about golden age books, it's a different story. Before I accepted and made an offer for this book, I made about 20 offers to Heritage Comics, people who had 0.5s or 1.0 blue label copies, even if it was missing a back cover, whatever, and they were all turned down. And some of my offers were more than I paid for this book. Obviously, because it's a blue label, it's going to go for more. So I decided that this was the right book for me. It was the right time because I thought that golden age books right now were the scarcer and what people will be flocking to now that everything else has started to come in. I still think Silver Age books are a buy, the bigger ones. If you guys haven't checked out my videos, especially the hierarchy video where I go over the investments, part 2 is coming and most of the big books are on part 1. But these are what long-term goals, like you could see big money 20 to 30 years down the line. So I wanted to pull the trigger now. And Batman, as you guys know, is outside of Spider-Man, Punisher, Hulk, and Batman. Those are my favorite characters. So to own this book, it's also the first appearance of the Joker. For people who don't know, it is the first appearance of the Joker. So I have a better picture, which I'm going to actually, I took a picture to just to show you so I can leave it on the screen so everybody could see it.
And Lawrence, do you have those numbers at hand that you had in your video of the number of copies of this out there?
Yes. So as of when I did that video, which was only a couple of weeks ago, there were 295 total copies of Batman 1 on the CGC census. Now, this is a CBCS book, so you got to say there are at least 296. 296 that we know about. I'm sure there's some raws out there, probably a few more CBCS. But that's about it. We're talking about 300 copies of this book out there in all grades, all restored, blue label, signature series, green labels, around 300 copies of this one.
That's
so
amazing.
It is quite the feat, and that's why I wanted to pull the trigger. So I'll read you the notes. It's a 6.0 off-white to white, restored, moderate to extensive. The professional restoration includes color touch on cover, pieces added to cover and interior, cover and interior reinforced, tear seals to cover and interior, spine split sealed, cover and staples cleaned. Now, the next thing I want to bring up about this book is that I actually don't live too far from Hero Restoration, which is, most of you guys know, they do restoration, they remove restoration, they press books, they do everything type of work on comics that you could possibly want. Now, I don't know if this book can be unrestored. I have no idea. There is a decent amount of work that's been done to it. My main concern is just the color touch, because depending on the majority of color touch, if it is small, if it's vast, maybe that could be removed. Because if the color touch is removed and could be removed, does this turn into a conserved book with all the work that has been done? And conservation is a little bit different than restoration, but I can't answer that until speaking with them about it.
2 questions on that. Would they have to crack that out to evaluate it?
Yes, absolutely.
And then what color label would you get from CGC with a conserved? I don't know what color it is.
It would be a blue label, but at the top of the bar, it says conserved grade in a gray notation. So it's a blue label, but at the very, very top, it'll say conserved grade.
Got it.
Which, most of you guys don't know out there, conserved and restored books for this era of comic books is very, very common. That's what they did back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. They try to keep these books intact by restoring them, which totally makes sense. Now, and of course, I think once CGC started back in the early 2000s, people started frowning upon the work they did to those books. But now, going forward, I always tell people in silver, bronze, everything else, stay away from restoration because the value greatly diminishes. And it does for Golden Age books as well. But because of the rarity, they're still highly sought after because they're very hard to find. So I bit the bullet and I said, you know what? It's worth it no matter what.
Nice. Lawrence, when you pop this out of the box, how long did you look at it?
So let me tell you, I had this thing delivered to my work. And he did a great job. He had it there before 10:30 in the morning. He sent it in a giant box so that I knew nothing was going to happen to this thing. I waited till I got home to open it because I couldn't open that at work. So as soon as I opened it up, I kind of just looked at it for a bit. I knew exactly where it was going in my collection. I have like a case back there with lighting, so I knew where it was going. I just kind of sat in my room that night and just sat in the chair and just kind of gazed at everything in the room. That's what I really did.
There wasn't oh, my son's got an early basketball game today. I gotta get out of here.
It was a perfect day to just sit here and do nothing and just kind of like, wow, I want a fucking Batman 1.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks. Like I said, I'm ecstatic and I wanted to share this with everybody. I didn't just do like a regular video for this. Definitely wanted to talk to someone and have somebody on and get their thoughts, but I wanted to share this with the community. It's not every day that someone can trade. And when I say it's a third of my collection, I probably only have about 50 books, like of all the slabs you see behind me. There's a lot less now. What is there? 16. There's probably 24 slabs on my wall. And maybe I have like 5 more in a box somewhere. I have about 30 slabs and that's it. And I have some raws. My raw wall, one day I'll show you guys, but that's it. I own 30 slabs.
Well, you got one of those 30s. Pretty damn special.
Yeah. So let's take a break for a second. I want to say hello to everybody in chat, and then I want to give you some other information that I have as well regarding some of the books I didn't give away. Okay. So I'm going to say hello first to Nels Blatar. How you doing, buddy? So if you guys don't know him, he's agreed to come on my show. I don't want to get into what we're going to go through, but he has won hell of an amazing collection he's agreed to show us. So I cannot wait to have him on the show. Robert, how you doing, bud? Thank you for joining me. Dr. Sean, I think he got a Batman one now. There you go, my friend. You got it. Danny, how you doing, bud? He's late, no problem. I went on and on, so you probably just caught me unveiling it. Kenneth Bird, how you doing? Gordon Sis, how are you? No stop giving these books away. I hope good pickup. Yeah, I think so. I think it did a good job for a rare book. First Joker, first Catwoman, first Batman in a solo. I'm trying to see if I missed anybody. Guessing Amazing Fantasy 15. Nah, Batman. I'm thinking Brandon. Great guess. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that, man. The Hobbyist, thank you so much for joining me. Anthony Butler, thank you. Trying to see the anime artist. How you doing? Can I draw you? Go for it, man. Definitely. Go for it. Why not? All right, so Dr. Sean has a question. Okay, here's my question. Would you rather have a low universal grade, like a 1.8, or a high grade restore book, like 8 or 9, and a Batman or Superman 1? Well, I bought a mid to high grade Batman #1, but would I prefer a blue label? Absolutely. Absolutely. To me, that's always, if you can go out and get one. The problem is, as I said before to Rohan, I must have made 20 different offers to people, more than what I paid for this book, and nobody wanted to give them up. Not one person. Every offer I sent out was denied, and I kept going higher and higher.
You know, actually, something I just really thought of. So this is a 6.0 restored. Does that mean, so does it have the back pinup then?
Yeah, it has everything. Everything's
Nice.
complete. Everything's
look at
complete.
that. Nice.
So I wouldn't have bought a restored book if it wasn't complete. 100%. No, that I wouldn't have done. It had to be complete. If it was a blue label universal, I would have bought one missing, the back cover or something. That would 100% I would have done. The Art Chemist, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So as I said before, it definitely looks like it could use from a cleaning. That's for sure, right? It's got a little bit of dirt. Could definitely use a press. If I bring it to Hero Restoration and say they can undo some of the work and I could go for it, I would also try to talk to CGC ahead of time. If I can get a call with Matt Nelson or somebody like that and get some information about, if this is removed, I could make this into a conserved label. Then it's worth doing. Then it's, all right, let's get this crack clean and see if I can get some of this removed and see what it come back at. That's something I really need more information on, but it's definitely a possibility.
Don't they? Because they do restoration removal now. And if I remember when I watched one of their videos or read somewhere, the first step is them doing an evaluation.
Exactly. But who does the evaluation? I think CGC does, restoration removal, but I don't know exactly what they do.
I think they will do the evaluation themselves in-house. And then from what I understood, it's like they would do it and then they would reach back out to you and be like, this is XYZ. We can do XYZ. Do you want to go for it or not?
But they have to crack it out of the case, right?
Yeah.
That's my thing. Like I want clarity first. If they say to me, well, all the work that's appeared to have been done with it, if we can remove the color touch, yes, it would make it conserved, because everything else is really conservation, in my opinion. The staples cleaned is another thing I'm not too sure about. I mean, it's just cleaning staples. It's not like I replaced the staples. They're cleaned. So is that restored or is that conservation? I don't know. I can't answer that. That's why I want information before I even go that route.
Yeah, that's definitely above my pay grade there.
Fatal 007, thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. You got that right. Quality over quantity. Thank you, Phil. Alex Bean, thank you so much. I don't know about elite, but it's definitely something I've been looking for my whole life. The seller wanted to trade me that copy of Batman 1 for my Captain America 1 3.5 restored. It's a great book, but Cap 1 is by my holy grail. Obviously, I say no. And that's what it's about. For me, Batman was more of a character I followed as a kid throughout my life as compared to Cap 1, so I totally understand it. This one, I'll tell you right now, it's never going anywhere unless I need the money badly. It's never going anywhere. Unless I can upgrade to a blue label, possibly, without spending any more money. This one is going to be here for quite the time. So with that said, any other questions? We're opening it up. Like, we're going to do some self-promotion here. But Batman 1 hasn't been the goal from day one, but it's been something that I thought I would never, ever have. But I wanted to tell you guys, know, if you follow my channel, what's the #1 book in my collection? You know, Rohan, before this?
AF-15.
Yeah. So I have an AF-15 signed by Stan Lee. And I think there's under 300 copies of AF-15 signed on the CGC census. So to me, having a Batman 1, which is around 300, an AF-15 signed by Stan Lee, which is around 300, and then I have a Hulk 1 signed by Stan Lee. I think it's even less than that. I want to say 195 or something like that are signed. Those two books I couldn't give up no matter what. If he had said, "Oh, I demand that book," or else I won't give it up, I wouldn't have done it. Like those books mean something to me because those are my, these are three of my biggest characters: Hulk, Spider-Man, and Batman. If I had to keep one more, it's Punisher. And it's a Bronze Age book, so I hate to say it, but you can find that book anywhere. There's so many copies of it out there.
There's several coming up a day.
Yeah. So, and it's come down. I still own one, and I still want to own them. But this was like I couldn't pass this up. So thank you to the seller. And
so then, Lawrence, my question for you then, you had it on your list. I think everyone is kind of universally agreed. You have your top 4 books: AC1, Tech 27, Superman 1, and Batman 1. Moving forward, is the goal to try and chase some of those down, or is it to recollect what you gave up?
No, I think I was telling somebody this before. I think Jason, I was talking to him. If I sold all those books at the top, or maybe it was you right before we started. If I sold all those books that I traded at the top of the market, I would have gotten a lot more out of them. Because you're talking books like Giant Says X-Men 1, which came down a lot. FF48 came down so much.
Yeah.
Even Tales of Spencer 9 came down a little bit. Journey to Mystery came down a little bit. FF5, I told you, that 3.0 I sold. I bought thinking it was a 2.5 raw, and it came back a 3.0. So I spent a little more on that book, but it was just bad timing. But like Avengers 1, I've had that since the beginning. My Hulk 181 I had since the beginning. Marvel Spotlight 5 I have since the beginning. ASM 9 since the beginning. ASM 129, I paid $1,100 for that book like 4 years ago. And now the book's probably worth, in an 8.0, probably $2,400. The Tomb of Dracula 10 signed by Marv Wolfman, I paid like $300 for. And now unsigned, it goes for like $800 or $900. So, I did well on some of them, so I felt comfortable letting them go.
Got it. Wait, so does that mean you're not going to recollect them then?
Some of them I may go out and get. Like right now, the Bronze Age stuff I probably won't. Like Hulk 181 108, Giant Size X-Men 108, Tomb of Dracula 10. At this point, with Blade coming, I see no reason for me to own that book right now.
Yeah.
Avengers 1 is something I might go out and get again. It's still cheap enough where I can go buy it. Like it's not crazy.
I'm always kind of surprised how low I see that one. And it's definitely one I want to try and chase down here in the next year or so eventually.
The one that I gave up that hurt the most, in my opinion, was the Journey into Mystery 83, First Thor, because I don't have another one, and it's a first appearance of a major character. I would like to have that back if I could, but other than that, everything else, like I have another FF5, I have another Daredevil 1. I was lucky enough to buy multiple copies so I can afford to give them up in something that I wanted to attain, like this book.
Yeah. I was going to say too, real quick, when we talk about these top 4 Golden Age books, one thing you got to give them credit, man, they did not let you disappoint on the cover. I mean, like you can't look at that Batman. I mean, it's like, it doesn't get better than that. So that just all adds to the joy of it.
I agree. And you don't see this, like that's a classic cover. I mean, my other option was I was trying to get a Detective Comics 31, which is super rare. I think there's 61 copies out there. 61 copies that are graded by CGC.
Yeah,
that's insanity. Or whatever it is.
1.0 on eBay still.
Yeah, it's $80,000. And I talked to the guy, but he only wants to sell it on eBay. And with the tax and whatever it says, it's not worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like you think about like when you get to the Silver Age, you have some major character first appearances. Like let's just say like Doctor Strange, for instance, like that cover sucks, right? This is like everything you want when you're buying these books.
So the things that we talk about are I mean, I started off this whole thing saying buy what you like. So that's the number one goal. If you like, Scarlet Witch and she's your favorite character, then you should own an X-Men number 4. Like that's it. But when we talk about comics in general, like who are the biggest characters out there? You have Superman, you have, and even now, like the kids, I don't think anybody's reading Superman for the most part. Like kids nowadays, I think they stick to some of the newer characters. But our generation, it was Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man. Those are the top 3. And I think we're going to throw Wolverine in that conversation now because he's gotten to a point where everybody wants a 181. And I think Wonder Woman, we could throw into the conversation as well. But those characters I think they stand the test of time, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
I had somebody message me, not message me, but I had made a comment on his Instagram post and he said that he wondered if his theory was correct that all these golden age books are coming up for sale right now because most of the people who own them are older people and they're trying to get rid of them because as we get older, the younger generation doesn't follow these characters as much, like the Supermans, the Batman, stuff like that. And he made a point. He made a valid point. But in my defense, I didn't say this because I didn't want to get into a back and forth with anybody, but what I thought about is when you buy a book like this, or you buy a Superman 1, or you buy an All-Star Comics 8, or you buy a major book of a major character from the Golden Age that not a lot of people can have because there's limited copies out there, it's a part of history. It's not really about the book. It's the history that we're buying. Like, let's talk about villains because I know this is the first appearance of the Joker. In comics, Rohan, who's your favorite villain? Or the most popular villain?
It's Joker. I mean, it's not even close. Like
he's one of He's one of the biggest villains, if not the biggest villain of all time, in both Marvel, DC, independent, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you could say that this book is the ultimate villain grail, only rivaled by FF5. And I would say, as awesome and badass as Doom is, like everyone on the planet knows who the Joker is, right?
Yeah.
I can't say that about Doctor Doom. I can't say that about Doctor Doom, even though I love Doctor Doom. I know you love Doctor Doom, but everyone knows the Joker. Everyone knows Batman. Not everyone knows Doctor Doom still.
So we're also going to throw Action Comics 13, which I believe is the first appearance of Lex Luthor, which nobody talks about because he is an iconic villain on the level of the Joker. But you don't see solo movies made about Lex Luthor, right? We saw a solo Joker movie, for God's sake. That's how popular, he is and what he is to Batman. He's, he makes Batman. We saw Heath Ledger say it. He's like, you complete me. And that's exactly right. Like, there is no Batman without the Joker now. So it's a double entendre when we talk about this book because not only is it the first and solo title, but it's also the first appearance of the most iconic villain.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's an all-timer, no doubt. I mean, it is the villain. Yeah.
So I'm more and more on the lines of history. Like, this is history.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, for me as a collector, I especially flock to books that I love, like I said, which you should do. AF-15, somebody mentioned it before. I love that book. That was my goal early on, is to get that book. And now that I've at one point I've owned 3 copies of it. Not at one time, but I've upgraded to where I'm at now, and that's where I'll stay. But Spider-Man is an iconic character. I would never give that book up. So,
would you trade this book for a super high grade AF-15?
No. So I'm going to tell you why. This is a great question, but I wanted to honor this because I made a mistake. Action 23 is the first Lex Luthor. I thought it was 13. It had a 3 in it. 23. There you go. Thank you, Gary. No. And the guy who mentioned the like the Golden Age thing about people selling, he said the same thing to me. He would rather have a higher grade action Amazing Fantasy 15. This is my thought on this. There's still roughly 4,000 copies of Amazing Fantasy 15 in any grade. I don't think you necessarily need to own a high grade copy. To me, it's about the history, so I just wanted to own the book. As long as it presented nice and was complete, that's all I cared about. Just to be in the conversation of owning a Batman 1, I didn't care. AF-15, if you want one, you can go out and get one. It doesn't have to be high grade. Now, from an investment standpoint, will more people want an AF-15? Probably. I'm going to say yeah, because I think more people are attracted now to Spider-Man than they are Batman, 100%. But we're talking about one person competing for 4,000 books roughly, and there's still Raws coming out of the woodwork every day on AF-15. And now we're talking about one person competing for 300 copies of Batman #1, so it's a little bit harder. So it's probably about even, I would say. But for me, having a low grade AF-15, I'm fine with. And in this book, but from an investment standpoint, that's a toss up because it's I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like I think when you think along the books of AF-15, let's just say in a 9.0, I think the people that you're kind of talking with that are getting that book are like those people that like, I have a 235-foot yacht. I'm going to get a 240-foot yacht next week and upgrade. Like, I just want a yacht, not necessarily, but you know what I mean? Like, that's what matters to me. It's like they have the money to like debate these like little tiny details of it all, where it's just like, I'm with you. To me, it's about the history. And it's like, you get to say, not only do you have Batman 1, you have the Stan Lee signed AF-15 and then the Stan Lee signed Hulk, right? That trio may put you in more rare company than just Batman 1 owners.
Big E, what's going on, bud? Thank you for joining the chat, man. We're talking about YouTube legend right here, so pay some respect to this man. One of the first guys I started watching and the New York Warriors when I got into collecting comics and YouTube way back when. I will see you at King Con hopefully this year, man. But yeah, you're right. Like I said, this is about history. That's I think by most people collect comics. I think sometimes we get caught up in the money and the investments and whatever. To like, I know I do a lot of money stuff on the channel, investment stuff, the hot 10 breakdown. But at the end of the day, you buy what you like, you spend what you want, you spend what you're comfortable with, and hopefully you make good choices. Because whenever you go to sell your collection, whatever it is, when you pass or you pass it on, or your family sells it, or wherever how it's going to go, if I could leave them something that people want, it's always going to help them out. If you end up leaving someone 40,000 books of stuff that may or may not sell, they're never going to get rid of that stuff. They're going to nickel and dime it out of here just to move it all. So what about you? What do you think? Would you rather own a select few books, which I'm gearing my collection towards, or would you rather own a ton of books, even if they are bigger keys?
Oh, I am definitely now I've already switched gears to, yeah, I'm much more into a select few high-end books versus the massive collection. No doubt. Yeah. And I also think too, that also plays a factor into maybe the stage of life I'm in. Like, you know, like you, I got kids and I have a house, and it's like, I don't have the room to hold a 40,000 comic book collection. And that also just sounds exhausting within what my life is now, versus like, I can have a nice couple shelves up with the big boys, and that would make me just as happy than like 50 long boxes.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know a lot of guys that like to collect a lot of books and have a majority. I see guys unboxing stuff every day on YouTube, every day. Same guys unboxing the same stuff, same type of stuff all the time. I mean, if that's what they want, I think that's great. But for me, I'd rather own like 20 to 30 books of books that really mean something to me. And I got to say to you, all my slabs that I still own, because I got rid of a third of them, they mean something to me. Like most of them are Amazing Spider-Man, Silver Age. Like you guys know, I'm a huge ASM fan, huge villain fan, especially when it comes to Amazing Spider-Man. Like I grew up on that along with the Joker. Those mean something. It would be hard to give those up, but I know I could always reacquire them because they're not too expensive, like a book like this. So I wanted to share my story with everyone out there. Anyone who wants to upgrade into a bigger book, it can be done. I think a lot of dealers right now, it's harder for them to sell the bigger books. It's easier for them to sell the little books because I think a lot of people think that they can't go out and get the big well when they actually can.
Yeah, I've had that same experience, you know, trading recently. Is like the guy I've been trading the most with. He's like, especially with the economy right now, he's like, it's easier for me to sell 50 $10 books or 10 $50 books than it is to sell one $500 book. So he's all about trading a bundle of small books for the big books. So yeah, just like you did, there were definitely people out there willing to do it.
I agree. So like I always tell you guys, bring the questions, right? Whenever I go live, and I'm going to try to do it every week if I can. Sometimes we get family stuff, but I like to do, you guys know I do the hot 10 breakdown of the week on Thursdays. The members of the channel get a little early, and then usually want another video another time during that week. So Monday or Tuesday, whenever it is, but I'd like to go live once a week just to kind of talk to everybody out there in the community. So we always taking questions when we go live. So any questions, just shout them out. So Jim asks, how about building a small run of Batman 2 through 10? And I think if that's what you want to do, go do it. Those are all great books, right? Great covers, especially I love early Golden Age Batman covers. I think they're awesome. So yes, they're definitely worth it. The only thing I would say about that is try not to overspend on the non-keys, right? I don't know how many keys there are on Batman 2 through 10, if there are any. So try to pick them up for as less money as you can. When we're not buying keys, yes, they're Golden Age books, but not every Golden Age book is significant. I would only stick to the keys as opposed to runs, but if that's what you want to do, I'm all for it. Just try to do it on the cheap. Try to buy books that are present well. Again, it's up to your comfort level on restoration and incomplete when it comes to Golden Age books. But if that's what you want, I think it's fine. I would want to do that on the cheap. What do you think, Rohan?
Yeah, I agree. I think when it comes to the Batman keys on the Batman run, I think it's 16 is the first Alfred Pennyworth. And I think that's kind of your first next big key in that run. The rest, there's some great covers in 1 to 10. But I think the next major key is 16. I may be wrong on that, but so no, I completely agree with your assessment there.
The art chemist, how you doing, bud? You always have to make sure you leave the collection as passionate as you are or closer. Just as Biggie's nephew Fetty has a great passion for comics like his uncle, which is cool. And that's what it's about. Like Biggie and his nephew, me and my stepson, he loves comics and comic characters as well. And I'm sure I know, Rohan, you always say you hope one of your kids gets into it, so you can kind of do it with them.
Yeah, no, like I have 3 and I have a 5-year-old and twin 3-year-old. So they're still super young. So yeah, my hope is that one of the 3 gets into it. And then it's like, I would love the idea of going to cons and hunting down some things with them. I think that'd be such a great, and then like, when it's my time to pass it on down, it's like part of the whole legacy thing, right? This would be part of my legacy to pass on down. And that also, is something that's much more viable when we collect, like we were just talking about, when we have a select few just monster keys versus like the 40,000 comic collection.
Yeah. Frank says, I did something similar trading 11 books for my Hulk one, and it was well worth it. A dealer friend of mine said, if you ever doubt the trade, ask yourself, would you do it in reverse? And that's a great way of thinking about it, because one, you acquired a great book in Hulk one. I don't know what you gave up for it, but at the same time, I always say Hulk one is the rarest Silver Age Marvel book. So I always think that book is well in demand, in my opinion. I know it's come down recently, but I love that book. I wouldn't give it up for anything. So I agree, though. If you could do it in reverse, would you do it in reverse? If you say yes, then, fine. If you don't doubt it, then you made a good trade. You're 100% right. So this was the cash part less than your trade value. So I have the trade value. I'm not going to go into numbers because I want to make it a little bit private, but it was about 50-50, just so you know. It was about 50-50.
I think, too, since you talked about, like, this book has come down a little bit when you're talking about that Hulk one, I think with these big blue chip keys too, you kind of almost have to look at it like a house, in that, yeah, that's come down, but and you say this all the time, right? This is not about the short term, just like a house, right? It's not about what happens in the next year. That you've gotten this book, like you've said, this is for your lifetime. So to worry about losing, $1,500 in the year is trivial compared to what you'll gain in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you hit it on the head. You have to look at it as long-term. A lot of people got into the market late, and they kind of rushed to get some of the things that were going higher and higher and higher. And now they're left kind of holding the bag. So I always say it's timing, right? But with a book like this, you get in and you just hold it. You're not going to, if I had to sell this book within 5 years, I'd probably break even or lose money.
Yeah. And I think too, when you're trading, because I've done a decent bit of trading recently too, I think that's another thing you've also got to think about. If you bought the book just recently, there's a good chance that you may not, if you take it book by book evaluation on the trade, you may not be profiting on every single book. But if the book you're acquiring makes you happier, it's still a good trade.
Exactly. And I'll bring upon the point that I know guys who have, like I said, have a ton of comics, but does that make them happy having a ton of comics? Or does have like one book that they never thought they could ever have make them more happy? And that's what you have to do. Forget about the money. Yes, I don't want you to go out and spend all this money that you don't have. That's not what I'm saying. But if you have, 20,000 comics, and you could sell them off and own, an AF-15 or Hulk 1 or even a Batman 1, and you're a big Batman fan and you're a big Spider-Man fan, isn't that the better buy than owning 40,000 or 20,000 comics in the room it takes up? That's a question you have to ask yourself. But for me, that was the way to go. Nick asked, what was the biggest key you gave up for the Bats 1? I went over the books I gave up, but it was a Tales of Suspense 39, Journey into Mystery 83, FF5, Daredevil 1, Marvel Spotlight 5, Avengers 1, Hulk 181, Giant Size X-Men 1, X-Men 4, ASM 9, ASM 129, Tomb of Dracula 10, and FF48. Value-wise, the most value on here was the Tales of Suspense 39 at a 2.0. The last sale was $8,000.
Oh, I got a question for you in that regard, Lawrence. The guy that you dealt with, you had some relationship with, so he may have had some idea of what you had. Did he ask for any books that you said no on?
No. So I asked him if he would take trade. He said yes. I said, all right. I said, here's the books I have for trade. And I sent him pictures and everything.
Oh, everything. Okay. So you gave him a list of what's tradable.
Yeah. And he said, okay. And he's like, and then I gave him the value through the last sales on all the books. I said, here's the last sales according to GPA. I said, this is what it totals. He didn't even come back at me and say, wait, I want to look this shit up. He knew, I assume he knew me. He knew I was fair. He knew I had the data because I wrote it all down on this piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
I could have just took a picture and sent this to him, but I just wrote it all out to him and said, here's the value and everything. And this is the total. I'm willing to give you X on top of this. And, that's my offer. So it was, like I said, it was rather smooth. The next biggest book was the Fantastic Four #5. The last sale of a 3.0 dropped to $6,000. Literally like a month and a half ago, that book was at $8,000. So I took a hit on that one, but from some of the other books I've owned for like 4 or 5 years, which I made crazy on. So it all kind of worked out in the end.
Nice. How do you think you're going to feel when you see some of these books on Instagram for sale that are specifically yours?
I already saw them. He had a live sale the other night. So I already saw them, but I get it. What are you going to do? Like I said, most of them I have second copies of, like the ones I really wanted to keep forever. So, but it is what it is. Sometimes you got to give up the little fish for the big fish.
Yeah.
My nephew's into comics and statues, but my son is all about toys and action figures. I'm here with you. My little one is into comics and toys, but he likes to open up the toys and play with them. So he doesn't keep them in the boxes, which I wish he would, but he feels like the Jim 85 one, but it was his back book. It was a Jim 83, first Thor. It wasn't the best book, but it was a book that I don't have another copy of. So, and it was affordable still at that grade. There you go. He got it. I use GPA to value the book. So if everybody doesn't know what GPA is, it's GPAanalysis.com. It gives you the values of the last sales that they've had on eBay, on Heritage, all the auction sites. I think except for Comic Link. Comic Link doesn't filter their information of sales to them. But outside of that, I just use that because that's what I'm comfortable with. What do you use, Rohan? Do you use anything like that, like Go Collect or anything?
Yeah, so I don't pay for the GPA subscription. So I use, I kind of just use a combination of Go Collect, the free version Go Collect, eBay, and kind of balance between the two. And then oftentimes the people I've traded with have GPA, and they're always and this I think is again another thing about the community that's really good is everyone's been very open that I've experienced. So the guy I've traded with, he's always just like screenshotted his GPA sheet for whatever book we're talking about and just sends it to me. It's not like I have to be like, well, I'm going to trust him or not. Like he just sends it to me and it's great.
I agree. I always have people asking me, well, what this guy's asking this. And then I forgot it was my friend Danny was looking to buy an ASM 1 and he, in case the guy was asking 9,000, I sent him a thing. The last GPA sale for that grade was like 6,400 or whatever it was. I'm like, no, you can't do that. Like that's too much money. I'm more comfortable using GPA because I always want to try to be under last GPA on certain books because I don't want to be setting the market. If books are dropping, if books are going higher, I don't want to be the one paying unless it's like a super rare book. Then you kind of have to you got to pay what they're asking type of thing, got to pay what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. This guy Gojira has a good question though, I think.
Yeah, that's the next one I was going to hit. That's a great, that's a great, what's it called? Your caption there. I don't know what that is. The guy there with
the thumbnail.
Yeah, that is great. That is great. Hi guys, thoughts on a non-key, low census comics from late Platinum Age and early Golden Age. Good investments in your opinion. For example, my new Adventure Comics 18 has 16 on the census. So this is a great question. You want to answer this first? Because I have a thought, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I think the thing you always got to think about is it's not just scarcity that matters. It's the popularity and demand of the character. Because at the end of the day, the book is worth what someone's willing to pay. And if no one knows the book that you're talking about, there's not going to be a high demand for it and not being therefore not willing to pay for it. So you could have a book from the Golden Age that there's 5 on the census of, but if no one knows what it is, don't matter.
I agree with you. I think it's demand. With that said, we talked about Amazing Fantasy 50, how there's just under 4,000 copies, but what's the demand for that book? The demand for that book, you got to tell me there's more than 4,000 Spider-Man fans out there, right? There's probably millions of Spider-Man fans. And as of right now, there's just under 4,000 copies that we know about. So to me, that book's always going to be in demand. People are always going to want it. It's the most popular character there is. So I agree with him. I think you're better off buying books that are in demand. Now, just because we have a low census number doesn't mean it's valued or it's an investment. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, and you, when we did the interview with you that dropped this past week, you made up a good point when we talked about Hulk 181 versus like a Golden Age Superman book. And it was that we talked about Superman 14, which is that black cover with the kind of American flag behind it. And I said, the same, you can buy a lower grade copy of that book for the same price you can pay for like a Hulk 181. And you were right? You said everyone always wants a Hulk 181. There's going to be less people that want that Superman 14. Doesn't mean it's the better buy or better investment, right? So demand is definitely a huge factor.
It is. And I think Wolverine's popularity, I want to say I'm working on that, the next part of that hierarchy video, and I'll give it away. Hulk 181 is on that video. I think there's like 17,000 copies of that book, maybe 44,000. I don't remember the exact number. You know what? I have it on my phone here. Let's see if I can find it quick. But the amount of copies on that book, I was like, what the hell? I didn't think it was that many, but there's a lot. So I know there's a lot, but I don't know how many of them off the top of my head are complete, missing the coupon. So right off the bat, yeah, there's 16,000 Hulk 181s out there. Okay. 16,000 Hulk 181s, 13,098 blue label, 1,025 green label qualified, 1,400 signature series, and 922 restored. So that we know about. And I'm sure there's plenty more that are raw out there, plenty more that are raw. So looking at these numbers, I would say I would rather have a signature series book because right now there's 1,417, which is still a lot, but it's not, compared to 16,000 and change plus all the raws out there, probably about 20,000 copies of the book right now out there. But how many Wolverine fans are out there? Probably a lot more than, like a Golden Age book that not many people know about. You know what I mean?
I mean, you just got to think, right? When Deadpool 3 was announced and it showed that Wolverine was going to be it, how many people went nuts for that Wolverine? Was it 88 with Deadpool, the first fight with Deadpool, right? I saw copies of that book in a 9.8 going for $1,000. Like, that's a freaking joke.
I agree. And that's like, I always said that, but when that book came on the Hot 10 Breakdown, I said it was a $10, $15 book max.
Yeah.
That's all you should be paying for that book.
Yeah.
The Art Chemist is a great book. If you ever decide to crack and clean, press, make it a video. Yeah. I mean, I would let someone else do that. I wouldn't do it. So I don't think they would let me video up, but yeah, the process of it, of me showing up to them, here you handing it off, getting it back, and getting the detailed notes I could share with you, but that's probably about it. But either way, like I said, when we go live, we take any questions you guys might have. What's a better buy? Is this a good price? What are, our collecting stuff, how we do stuff, that's always what I like to take questions on. I know some of the people in the chat, but I'm glad to see a lot of new faces because, if you guys haven't watched any of my stuff, I try to be as helpful as possible on videos. So if you haven't checked out some of my stuff, I'm going to do a little bit of a, coming attraction right now while I have you here for a second. So we announced this last week, the $500 comic challenge. It's myself, Jason over at Omega Collects, and Errol Molnar. The challenge is to buy a book for $500 or less. And then we're going to come back and do a live show, and I'm going to put a poll up and say who got the best deal on the book, which book has the greatest potential moving forward. And we're going to use the voting for everyone out there in the community to make that decision. And whoever wins that video, we'll throw a challenge out there to anyone out there who possibly thinks that they got a better deal. And we'll throw up another poll about that. But that one's probably going to take a couple months for us to come up with some books. But either way, it's going to be a fun one.
And I think it's safe to say that $500 is not the Batman one.
Yeah, definitely not. I almost pulled the trigger on a book last night, but the guy wanted $550 and he wouldn't come down. I was like, damn, I guarantee I would have won if I got that book. Here's another one. This is coming up Monday, my first Golden Age comic unboxing. So now that I have the Batman, though, I actually got this book before that, but Batman is my second.
Oh, that's a different one. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, this is a different one. It's a different one. So stay tuned on Monday. It's coming out. And the last one I'm going to promote for tonight is this one, because he was in the chat earlier, and he's going to come on the channel and he's going to show us. He says he has 46 of the top 100 Golden Age comics of all time. So he's going to come on the podcast and he's going to show us the books, including the Action 1. And we're going to talk about it and everything, how he got into comics. how he got the Action 1. It's going to be awesome because, as we know, he's the only second person I know who owns one of these. And if you watch my hierarchy video, there's 75 copies of Action Comics 1 out there. 75 known by
amazing.
CGC. And he's one of them. So when he decides to come on the podcast, do not miss this thing because it is going to be something.
Yeah, and there's a couple other books on that list, right, that are going to be in the less than 100 category too. And if he's got more than one of them besides Action 1, I mean, that is something crazy.
It is. It's insane. I cannot wait to have him on because I'm super excited. It's not every day you get to meet a collector that has a collection like that, and to have him on the channel, I don't think he's been on anyone else's channel, so it's going to be an awesome thing to show. And of course, like we always do, we meet the collector. Let's talk to the collector and find out how he did it because we all want that. We all want that goal.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on second print like TMNT 1? So I'm probably a little biased when it comes to this stuff. That I like first prints. I know there's only 3,000 TMNT 1s out there that are printed. I don't even know if it's by CGC. There's less than that. There's like, off the top of my head, I think there's only like 1,600 graded copies of TMNT 1 by CGC. Off the top of my head, roughly around that number, and only 3,000 printed. I would always like to buy a first print. I know the second print still it's worth money. It's worth good money. So if that's all you can get, buy it because I know the one is really, really expensive. What are your thoughts, Ron?
I think with TMNT, I think if you can get a second print, you should. Just for the fact that you talked about the greatest comic book characters, right? We talked about Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is just as popular in this genre, I think, at least, with the following behind it. And so to have the number 1, I think, is huge. And I mean, it's the second print versus like, what do they do? 6 printings on that book. So
I have a question. If anybody can answer me this in the chat. Okay. I'm a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. I love the cartoon growing up. I had the toys, everything. But what came first? Did the comic come first? I know it came before I think it came before the show, but I don't know what came first. If the comic came first and that was the first time we saw them anywhere, then I'm 100%. Yeah. You should own one.
I was under the impression that the comic was the first. I can't back that up 100% though.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, like that's really important. If something else came first, then maybe that's more important. But I don't know the answer to that, unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of the reverse of that one is like when you think of like the Star Wars books, like the movies came out and then that Star Wars 1 came out, so it doesn't have the same kind of weight to it.
Exactly. So I want to say you're right, and I think the book did come first. And I know it's hugely popular. I'm not a huge fan that I would go out and buy the book, but if you are, then yeah, it's definitely worth it.
And I would also just say, just based on the art of TMNT 1, I would lead me to believe that was the very first thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's black and white inside, right? Or no?
That I'm not 100%. That I don't know.
I don't know either. See, Toe Up Comics says comic came first, so there you go.
Yeah,
that's your answer. So yeah, that's the case. No, you don't want to owe that much. I'm not sure what he's referring to.
I think he's referring to the guy that says, I would love to own a Batman 1. And
that's yeah. No, you don't want to owe that much. Well, I know this is paid off, thank God. So it's not mortgage. It's not put on a credit card. It's what's done is done type of thing. I don't know why that book was always buy, but that Deadpool Wolverine cover is not something to go crazy for me. But I had had one since the 90s. Like if you got in early, like that was the time. You probably should have sold it with the craze. You probably would have made, some nice money, right?
Yeah. I have something too. I don't love that cover. I think it's quite unappealing.
I agree. I don't think it's the greatest cover either. I don't even think to me, I don't think that's a key. Yeah, great. Like it's the first time Wolverine and Deadpool fought. Is that like the biggest thing ever? Like I feel like there's so many other things I'd rather have than that. Like I'd rather own the first appearance of Deadpool. Yes, it's more money, but I don't know. Like the prices that book was going for, like off the top of my head, was like $300-$400 in a 9.8. To me, that was nuts.
No, like, there was definitely at newsstand 9.8s going for I think $1,000. I think
that's what could you do with $1,000 right now? You could buy what for $1,000?
Yeah,
some good shit. You could probably go out and get a lower grade FF48 for $1,000 right now. Tomb of Dracula 10 at a 5.0. $800.
You can get a nice Marvel Spotlight 5 for that cost.
Exactly. My LCS just had a raw 4.5 they had for $850, I think.
Yeah.
I'd rather own that book.
Yeah, 100%.
Bought a mystery box back in 2019 before the pandemic, and it was a mystery box for 500 and an Iron Man 282, ASM 299 and 300, and a few other books raw and a Near Mint 82 slab. For 500 bucks, ASM 300, I would say that's a damn good deal. And a 299 first cameo of Venom. That's pretty damn good. Wow. That's giving shit away.
Yeah.
Came back as
6.0.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, I always talk about that book. Like, I want it in a higher grades because there's so many copies of that book.
Yeah, right here. This guy's 1,000. I'd get a Silver Surfer 1. Same thing.
Yeah. That's my point. It would be a high grade if it was a Silver Surfer 1. I'd rather have a Silver Age all day over a modern book. I mean, to me, that's a no-brainer. And all Silver Surfer books have gotten crushed. Oh my God. From the peak when they announced that Fox was getting bought out by Disney, we're talking like a 4.5 selling for like $3,700 to now it's like literally a $1,400 book.
Yeah.
And he's coming to the MCU.
You want to talk about crashing though? That Wolverine 88 will crash harder than any of these.
Oh yeah. But who's going to buy that? I mean, that's my thing. If you're spending that much money on a high grade Wolverine 88, then I feel like that's FOMO.
Oh, it's 100% FOMO. There's no doubt about that.
So I don't know. I mean, that's part of me reason why I wanted to come on here to show people that, you know, timing, if you get in at the right time. And I'm going to say right now if you're willing to hold long term, especially for the Silver Age Marvel that has gotten crushed. I'm talking, I saw an X-Men 1. When I got into it about 5 years ago, X-Men 1 2.0 was about 3,000. 2.0 now run you under or 6,000 or under. So it has gone up. But at the height, a 2.0 was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
So if you buy now and you're willing to hold 20 to 30 years, you're going to make money.
Yeah, it's definitely a buyer's market right now.
Yeah, and nobody's paying full prices. Make an offer. But you're getting another opportunity with this dip. Now, it may take another 20 years for the market to go bananas like it did again. I always use this as an example because when I bought my AF-15, I think I told you this on your show, Rohan. It might have been your show. I bought an AF-15 about 5 years ago, let's say. It was a raw copy and it had graded, came back at 1.5. I paid 10 grand for it, okay? And the book was doing nothing for like 3 years. And it literally has gone down. I'm like, what the hell? Like, why is this book going down? This is the first appearance of Spider-Man, right? One of the most sought after books out there. I'm like, why is this book going down? Nobody's like, meanwhile, everything's going up. I'm like, what the hell? Finally, that 9.6 AF-15 sold. That for what was it? How much did it sell for? 3.6?
3.6 million.
And then all of a sudden, that book tripled in like months. And like, it's come down. Don't get me wrong, but a 2.5 is still selling for 25,000.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So same thing happened with Superman 1 when you had that $5 million sale. And like, there's been a Superman 1 on Heritage, like every big auction they've had the last, several months.
Well, that was part of what that guy had told me, that he thinks these are coming to market because they think that they're going to keep going down and nobody's going to be interested in these characters. But like I said, if you're buying history, if you're willing to hold, I think that's the right way to go. But if you're willing to hold, it's just like stocks. There are ups and downs every 7 to 10 years. We get like a 15-year run the last 15 years. It's come down. But if you're just holding and you sell when you're ready to go and when you're ready to move on from the book, you're always going to make money.
Yeah. And that's also too why you go back to the buy what you love, because you're not going to feel bad about having it.
Yep, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people just love having a ton of books. They see the new flavor of the week. I'm going to buy that and buy that and buy that because it's affordable. It's affordable. But if you add all the affordable books up, how much have you really spent over time when you just can have the one thing that you really want?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nick says, I'm hearing that Silver Surfer may have his own special on Disney Plus starring Ryan Gosling and Silver Surfer. As long as they don't make the show crazy woke, it should be amazing. That's what I heard, the same thing. And, we can kind of shift gears into the next topic. We're talking about DC a little bit and the James Gunn news about the Superman legacy, all the new shows that are coming out, the Brave and the Bold movie that's coming out with Batman and Damian Wayne. What is everybody's thoughts on that in the chat? Do you think that DC is going in the right direction with this stuff? Rohan, do you think? I mean, are you excited about anything they announced?
So I'll start off by saying that like I've just given up completely on DC. Like I don't even watch the movies anymore. Like I didn't see Black Adam. I didn't see Aquaman. I think the last one I saw was Justice League. So I had just completely given up on it. You know, when James Gunn was first hired, I was like, okay, you know, this has promise. And, you know, I'll be honest, when I watched his video on Tuesday or whatever it is that came out and he started talking about the projects, there was definitely a little bit of excitement for the fact that like it sounded like for the first time, a couple of things. One, there were fresh ideas for the characters, which sounded great. And two, I really appreciate that he said this is an 8 to 10 year roadmap. And I think that's been DC's biggest issue is Marvel started and they took their time and they built slow and they had a roadmap, right? And then DC was like, oh crap, we could do something like this, but we're way behind. So they had to get all this stuff out and just rushed right through it. What they needed was somebody that was an architect that could map out a plan for the long road. And that's what it seems like it's doing. So I do have some hope for it. So I would definitely go see, like, I have no intention of seeing the new Flash or the new Aquaman or the Blue Beetle, but once like the Superman Legacy, I think is the first movie, I will absolutely go see that. I will say, I should say, Superman is definitely one of the characters that I would probably even go see it if I knew it was going to be bad, because I just, you know, Superman's up there for me. Same with Batman. But no, that definitely, hearing him talk about it definitely excited me.
I was excited about some of the announcements. I'm glad they're going in a totally different direction than where they were. But the one thing is concerning to me is that I mean, I shouldn't say concerning, but it's only to me. Other people may like this, and that's fine. But they're going to use more modern storylines for these characters. Like the Superman Legacy, he's going to be 25 years old. I want to say I heard that they're going to take from the New 52 Superman storylines. The Batman and his son Damian Wayne is obviously more modern stuff. So I don't know where my heart fits into the storylines that they're going to show. I do believe that James Gunn knows how to tell a story, 100%. But at the same time, he can take an obscure character that nobody knows about and turn it into a great story and a great movie. Can he take someone as beloved as Superman and Batman and make an old school guy want to watch? That I don't know. And I'm curious to find out, because with the first thing that comes out is a Superman Legacy. If they pick the right actor and it's a great movie and it's true to the original Superman, I think they're going to be a home run. If they fuck it up and the storyline is good, but it doesn't call back to some of the golden age of comics, it's going to be a problem. I can tell you that for a lot of the older people out there. I don't think a lot of newer people are reading Superman. I think some of people our age, maybe a little younger, read the New 52 and read that era of comics, so they'll be fine. But I'm a little worried about the source material and what they're pulling from and what Superman is going to be. If they do it right, then he'll be back. 100% Superman will be back. I loved the Batman movie by Matt Reeves. I thought that was fantastic. Did you see it?
Yeah, I loved it. And like that movie specifically too, I think like the first 45 minutes of that movie are excellent. Like, oh yeah, I'm a big fan. I will say that is one thing I did bring up. A couple thoughts I had with this whole announcement. One, with this being its own universe, then you have the Matt Reeves Batman universe, then you have the Todd Phillips Joker universe. For those that aren't hardcore Batman, Superman, Joker, whatever fans, is that going to be appealing that there are 3 different kind of Batmans out there or 2 different Jokers out there? Obviously, me as a Batman fan, I'm all for it as long as they're good quality movies. I'll go see all of them. But as someone that's not as hardcore a fan, is that something that's as appealing that there's multiple versions of Batman at the same time?
That's a valid issue, because like I said, for someone like me who enjoyed the Batman film, and I love the Nolan films. I thought the Nolan films, all 3 were perfect.
Oh yeah.
Still to this day, some of my favorite Batman stuff.
As far as I'm concerned, they'll never be topped.
Yeah, exactly. But the Batman one was a very good movie. So we're going to see a different Batman for the Brave and the Bold. It's not going to be anything like the Batman that we saw now, in my opinion. I would have rather them instead of them do that stupid Batman versus Superman, the movie that they did with Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, they should have done The Dark Knight Returns. Word for word
story.
Yeah, they should have went word for word from that book, and they would have gotten a better result. but they didn't, and it crashed them. So now they're taking from this more modern storyline. I don't know how it's going to be received by some of the people who love comics and read comics all the time. Think it's going to be fine. For the people like the older generation and the newer generation, I don't know how it's going to be perceived. That's what I'm worried about.
I will say though too, a couple other thoughts I had after watching the announcement. One, I think along with the majority of people, have been somewhat disappointed with Phase 4 of the MCU. And
Absolutely.
then you've heard that some of these future projects have been delayed. Now that DC's on the ball here, we'll say on the ball, that should hopefully now prompt Marvel to kind of up their game a little bit.
I think they're setting up all these new characters in Phase 4, but from what I've seen from Jonathan Majors so far, I'm really loving what he's doing, and I already bought my tickets for Ant-Man in a couple of weeks. I can't wait to go see that, because if that movie is good as we expect, I think the MCU is back.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I agree. The other thing I was sticking with that is this. I can't remember which one comes first, but the Superman movie, the date they gave in July is 2 months. It's either before or after Avengers Kang Dynasty.
It's after. It's 2 months after.
So I'll be really interested to see how the two play against each other. And then the third thought I had was, maybe I'm in the minority here. I don't think I am, but like, I haven't loved the Marvel Disney Plus shows. Like, I thought Loki was the only one that actually had some relevant.
Loki's the best one by far. Yeah.
Everything else is just like, you don't need to watch it to enjoy the movies. So, and I think one of the reasons why that is because I just feel like with the Disney Plus shows, they just don't go all in on, right? They kind of just give you some like tertiary characters with some BS tertiary villains.
That's why I don't know if you heard, but they ousted the CEO of Disney, and then Bob Iger came back because they said they were putting out too much stuff that wasn't up to quality. So now Bob Iger is back, and they're slowing everything down.
Yeah, and so when he talked about the shows, the one specifically I thought that was super interesting was that Lanterns show.
Yes,
and he kind of talked about it being like a True Detective style. Which, I mean, True Detective Season 1, obviously this is not comic related, is one of the best seasons of television you could ever watch.
Yeah.
And so that really excited me. And I also just thought in general, like, I love HBO content, and all of these shows are going to be on HBO. So if they can bring some DC shows with that HBO quality, that is a leg up DC can get on Marvel, I think.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody follows me on Instagram, the Mighty Comics and Collectibles, but I put out a video I saw on TikTok the other day about why people love these characters, and it's their origins. What kind of makes them who they are, especially Batman, characters like Spider-Man losing his Uncle Ben, Batman losing his parents. And now that we're skipping over these things in the movies, I know most people know who these characters are and how they became there, but you're taking away a critical importance of who this character is just to go right into a storyline. Like the Brave and the Bold that they're doing, it's supposed to be, Batman and his son and their relationship together and how he becomes Robin and all that, but you're taking a critical part away of who Batman is. Maybe you start with that and then maybe him passing that stuff on to Robin later on. I don't know. The fact that they're going straight into this stuff, I like origins. I like hearing about the stuff. I know we've heard about it a million times, but it's still worth hearing, in my opinion, even if it's a half hour in the movie,
Yeah, I totally get that. At the end of the day, I think if they cast it right, they write it well, and they execute, it'll work.
Yeah.
And that's at the end of the day, I think the most important. But I definitely hear you. Like, I have no issue. Like some people are like, oh, we've already seen the origin story several times. And it's like, I love watching the origin over and over, which will also be interesting because they said Fantastic Four is not going to be an origin story. So yes, they're playing that same kind of thing.
I'm going to answer a couple questions that Nick has, and then we're going to go back to this conversation because I have something else I want to bring up to you guys. So Nick's asked, what's the most you would spend on a statue? I'm considering buying a Blade statue, 1/3 scale from Sideshow, and it's $1,300. It's the same price as a Big Key. I think, and I have a few statues, but I don't have a ton. I think, I don't know the resale game on statues, so I can't tell you how much they go up in value. I know they're limited, so I don't know this Blade statue, how many there are. I can tell you once they release, if they're still there and they're still for sale after they release, that it's probably not the greatest resale value, because I bought a couple of statues that they were still there after a while, and they're probably not going up in value once you buy them. But if they sell out quickly, then they probably are going to go up a little bit. I would always rather have the comic because I think you have a better chance of them getting sold. Statues take up room, especially the big ones, 1/3 scale. So it's also easier, I think, to sell a comic than it is a statue. What do you think, Rohan?
So I have no idea what the market is on statues, right? So when you say 1,300 for a statue, I don't know if that's par for the course or if that's like a 15 level statue. Like I have no clue. I'm gonna assume that's relatively par for the course for a 1/3 statue because that's pretty big. So I can't imagine those are cheap. Yeah, I not my thing. I know a lot of people love the statues. If that's your thing, again, this goes back to buy what you love, right? But in terms of like you talk about like what's the market if you needed to resell it, I just think like how much does that thing cost to ship? It's got to be $500 to ship.
Well, he says he already owns a key Blade book and to be buying the statue on time payments. And that's up to you. If you're a huge Blade fan and you want to pair with the statue, go for it. Just to give you a side note, I picked up a Hulk, the 1/4 scale sideshow. Dude, the thing is awesome. The thing, it's like this big, man. And I got it used off eBay. It's perfect. But I paid like what it cost on Sideshow. So like it was worth it for me to buy it. Just because if I show you this thing, it is, I might do a review on it, but it's just massive. It is massive. It is so awesome just because it's massive. So I get it. If you want cool stuff, just buy the stupid thing because you'll be happy. Don't worry about the resale value. As long as you can afford it, go for it.
Yeah, I'll add this. You had that moment when you got your Batman 1 where you sat down in your room and you just sat there and enjoyed it. If you're going to get that level of satisfaction from it, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you can't worry about that stuff. If you can afford it and you want it, go for it. If you're going to get it and then you're going to regret buying it because what you spent on it, then don't buy it, right? If you're questioning it too much, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
All right. So I have one other topic I wanted to discuss. We've already been like an hour and 15 minutes, and then we'll go from there. I heard some news today about Fantastic Four casting. Okay. And the guy that they had up for Fantastic Four was an interesting choice that I heard today because the guy is a phenomenal actor.
I know you're talking about.
And I could see him playing the role because they had the picture up there. And I said to myself, holy shit, this guy, I could see him pulling off Reed Richards. And I'm going to see if I could find the video.
You talk about Dev Patel, right?
Dev Patel. So he's an Indian actor. Okay. But he's a phenomenal actor. I forgot the name of the movie, but it's a movie where I guess he goes, I forgot the gist of the movie, but it was a phenomenal movie. And he's trying to find his birth parents or his birth mother.
Lion.
That movie was fucking awesome. It's still today one of my favorite movies. He is such a phenomenal actor. And I'm looking at the pictures they have of this guy. I'm like, you know what? This dude could pull off Reed Richards.
Have you seen Slumdog Millionaire?
Yes. So yeah, he was really young when he did that movie. Yeah, that was a great movie too. But I'm going to show you the picture. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because I know people are going to be up in arms about this dude playing Reed Richards. But when you see him and when you see, if you ever see anything that he's in, I'm going to see if I can get, there's another video out there with him in it as well. He's such a good actor. And with the facial hair, he actually kind of looks like Reed. Forget the long hair. You could kind of probably get rid of that long haircut, but he's a phenomenal actor. Okay. Absolutely phenomenal actor. And I think for the age range that they're going through, like he's probably mid-30s. With the facial hair, he looks exactly like Reed Richards, in my opinion. I want to share another one if I could find it.
Yeah, I was so I was talking about this today. So I am, my family is from India. And so like when I saw that, I was like, oh, look at this. Cause I also love Fantastic Four. And it's funny, like on the post that I saw it and I like looked through the comments. I was like, oh, people are going to freak out. And there's a number of people like, he doesn't even look anything like him. And I just like think, did Samuel L. Jackson look like Nick Fury? Is anyone complaining there?
No, but I also don't think Nick Fury is as big a character. This is Reed Richards, who's like a huge fucking character in the MCU. And I know people are going to go nuts when they see if they cast this dude. But I got to tell you something. I'm very intrigued by this because he can pull it off. He's such a good actor that I think he could pull it off. The guys they were talking about Reed Richards, they were talking about Adam Driver. I think Adam Driver would be a great Dr. Doom. I really hope they cast him as Dr. Doom. But Adam Driver's not fucking Reed Richards. The other dude that they had, what
they've had, I mean, that's the thing is they've had like even Henry Cavill has been rumored as
Reed Richards. Not Reed Richards.
No, he's
the other guy. They even said David
Penn
talking about Ryan
Badgley.
Gosling as Reed Richards. Yeah,
Penn,
dude, he's too skinny. He does not look like Reed Richards. I thought, to be honest, I thought John Krasinski looked like Reed Richards. He really does. He looks exactly like him. I thought that would be the greatest casting. I'd be fine with him keep going as it, but I do think they want to do a younger one. How would like what? And you guys tell me in the chat. Would you guys mind this dude playing Reed Richards? Because I think in the picture shown here and the other one that I showed you, he could pull it off. He actually looks like he could play Reed Richards in this, in what I'm seeing.
Real quick, Lawrence, on this kind of note, since you brought him up, you had Adam Driver for Dr. Doom. I think he as well could play an excellent Dr. Doom. I still think the #1 guy for Dr. Doom is Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I think he would be a good one too, but I think Doom is like, he's not a one and done character. He's going to be like 5 or 6 movies, and I don't think Denzel's got it in him.
That's but when I think about Doom, I think of that like Denzel's got that swagger of arrogance that Doom has, where it's like he's a human, but like he would, without thinking twice, would sacrifice the human population to up his level of power. You know what I mean? Like,
what about the guy Giancarlo?
Esposito?
Yeah, they rumored him as well.
I like him more for Professor X.
Yeah, I mean that's fine too. I saw some other guy they mentioned for Professor X that I thought was fine. I think they should bring back the other guy who played him in the Days of Futures Past. I thought he did a good job, James McAvoy. They should bring him back as Professor X. He's young enough to play that role.
Yeah, he's definitely young enough.
But Reed Richards is a big character. He's the new Tony Stark of whoever they choose. He's the guy to carry the next 10 years, 100%. He's that guy. Yeah. So they have to get this one right. When I saw this, I'm like, you know what? All the guys that they've mentioned so far, this one to me makes the most sense because he's a great actor. He's young enough, and he kind of looks like Reed, a younger Reed Richards.
Totally does. And that photo you showed of him with like the outfit on, that's not the photo I saw today, and like it looks great.
Yeah. I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on this. I know some keep it clean in the thing. Like I know he's Indian. I know it's not traditional, but the other guys that they mentioned, like Penn Badgley, I don't see him as Reed Richards. I just don't see it. He doesn't fit the bill. He's not a big enough. This dude is tall, by the way. I don't know if you know, this dude is ginormous. So he's not like some little dude. Penn Badgley is a small guy. This guy, I don't know how exactly tall he is, but he plays like a giant. Every time I see him in something, he's towering over everybody else. So that's the kind of guy you want as Reed Richards. John Krasinski is another guy. I think he's like 6'4". He looks like Captain America still. You need a giant to play Reed Richards because he's a dominant figure. So I wanted to touch on that. Let's see if I have any comments in the. Some guy would rather have John Krasinski. Story is usually more important than the actor, in my opinion. If the story sucks, the actor isn't going to save it. You're right, but it's not one movie, right? We're talking about Reed Richards. This is going to be like a 10-year plan with him. So you can't just have one story. This is like 10 plus years of stories. How you got Denzel as Doom? You don't like
I just think like Denzel's got that swagger for it, man. I could just so see it.
He's ruthless. If you ever saw like some of his movies, he's ruthless, and that's what Dr. Doom is. I don't think he's a commitment. I think Adam Driver, like after playing Kylo Ren, I think that's the most logical choice.
Yeah, I think Adam Driver, I think, is a great choice for it as well.
Billy Crudup, if I had my casting choice. I got to see who that is. I don't remember who that is.
Yeah, I don't remember who that is either.
So John Krasinski is Reed Richards, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what they plan on doing with that.
It seems like if Krasinski was going to be it, they would have announced that by now. It seems like.
See, I don't know. I feel like, has anyone seen Ant-Man yet? I'm hearing all these rumors that we might get him at the end of the movie.
Oh,
that they're stuck in the quantum realm as well, or they pull them out. And I don't know, but I'm thinking hopefully they haven't said anything because they want it to be a surprise at the end of that movie that the Fantastic Four are stuck in there as well, and they're trying to get out. Like, how awesome would that be?
That would be super fun. That would be super fun, and I'm really excited. Like, Ant-Man 1 and 2 were fun movies, but they were like movies that were like it was like palate cleansers for the MCU. It was like
they weren't serious, but now like I think it's going to get serious, and then let's say Kang escapes from the quantum realm and Scott and Cassie are stuck there because that's what everybody's thinking. All of a sudden, what are we going to do now? And all of a sudden, somebody reaches on the back of Scott's shoulder, put his hand, and he turns around, and it's fucking Reed Richards. Wouldn't you fucking die? I would fucking faint right there. That would make the end of the movie perfect.
What if it all it was an outstretched arm and you saw no?
Yes. No, I want to see who the actor is. We need to see who the actor is. Let's just he turns around and it's all four of them standing there.
Oh, yeah. I will lose my mind if that happens. I mean,
everybody would go nuts.
In Multiverse of Madness, when they just mentioned being at the Baxter building, I was like, oh my God, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's we all want to see. Let them set it up. Let them at the next. They're going to pick up in Kang Dynasty of them getting out of the quantum realm with the Fantastic Four, or maybe the Fantastic Four comes first. So them getting out of the quantum realm starts off that movie, getting out of the quantum realm with Scott, and then the movie kind of takes off, and it kind of explains where they've been this entire time.
Yeah, I will say I hadn't thought about that as Reed Richards being the new kind of Iron Man role, because I had kept hearing that like that's what Doctor Strange is supposed to be, and I was like, I don't necessarily love that. But I really like that for Reed Richards.
Reed Richards is probably the number one outside of like Iron Man is great in the comics, but he's not what he is in the movie, right? They made Robert Downey Jr. the centerpiece. He's not like that.
Yeah.
Captain America, I get was like that, but Reed Richards is everything to Marvel. He's the guy who brings everything together. Like they said, the smartest man in the universe. Has a fix for everything, tries to fix everybody's problems. He is the number one character that they have to nail right. And that's why I think they're waiting on kind of making that decision, because he is so important to the next phase of Marvel.
Yeah. I'm a huge FF fan, so I am super pumped for this. And yeah, you're right. Like I said, if they're in Ant-Man, even just a glimpse, I will lose my mind.
Yeah, I think everybody was be screaming at the end of the movie, waiting for the next phase. That they need to do that. I should be writing for Marvel right now, dude. I will have everybody on the edge of their seats. Call me, Marvel. I am available. All right.
With that statement you make, where do you bring in X-Men? Because that's also what I'm waiting for.
They can't bring in X-Men to 2025. That's already been established. That's why they're bringing back the old X-Men, because they can't bring in the new ones till 2025. Yeah. So you got a while for the X-Men, the new X-Men.
Yeah.
So I think after the Kang Dynasty ends, after Secret Wars ends, that's the next phase is them trying to find these mutants that exist in our timeline.
And I think that plays well, right? Like I think Doom is going to be a Thanos level villain. Like there's a whole storyline there with Magneto trying to eradicate the humans and for mutant superiority. So like I think that's definitely a big play there too.
The only other option is at the end of Secret Wars, Dr. Doom gets involved some way. At the end of Secret Wars. So, I mean, they need to bring in that character because he's his own 5-year arc as well, at least, Dr. Doom. So, and then people have mentioned Galactus coming after that, after the Kang Dynasties. He's the next one. I don't know. But you have so many great villains. I mean, Galactus is one movie, in my opinion. He can't do a whole thing, right? He's got one storyline to eat the planet, and that's how it's going to go.
Yeah, I see Galactus as one movie, and then like he may make appearances in other movies, like they need him for something or some knowledge in some area or some power in some area, and they go to Galactus. But I don't think he's a 5-year arc kind of guy.
Yeah, I agree. Dr. Doom is a 5-year arc. Magneto, I don't know if they're ever going to go that route because it's been done already by Fox, maybe way down the line. But I mean, we're all waiting. But this Reed casting is the one that they're hanging their hat on for the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm ending it. We've been on the thing for about an hour and a half. Rohan, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This was fun.
Yeah. So again, if you guys haven't heard, I picked this bad boy up in a massive trade. That's what this video is about. But I wanted to take questions and go over some other stuff. So
yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining me, guys. As usual, check out my videos. Check out Rohan's podcast, Absolute what is it? Nerd Podcast?
Absolute Game of Nerds.
Absolute Game of Nerds. That's it. That's right. Check
him out. And the one that dropped this week was our interview with Lawrence himself. So
check that out. It was a good one. All right, guys. Thank you guys for joining me. Again, I will talk to you guys soon.
Later, guys.